I guess we'll go ahead and jump into this. So hopefully it's obvious to everyone. Today we're going to be talking a bit about System Platform 2017 with the new InTouch OMI client technology. Today's session will be focused largely around the background of System Platform, what drove us to make a lot of the changes, what are the expected outcomes that we have when applying this new technology. There is a separate already pre-recorded session that gives you a bit more of the technical details of how these things are achieved. This session is a bit more high level, really framing the story around what we were attempting to achieve. But again, you can access through the similar system that Marianne had cited some more of the technical details if that is something of interest to you. All right, with that, I will jump into this presentation here. So one of the key things we want to start off here is you recognize that not everyone here may have a fluent background as what is Wonderware. Wonderware began in 1987 when we started with the first Windows-based human-machine interface, or HMI platform, in the industry called InTouch. And InTouch has been our front-end visualization technology for going on 30 years, actually over 30 years at this point in time. Since 1987, we've achieved well over 750,000 software licenses out, and they're installed in over 120,000 plants around the world, over 130 countries. We're currently present in over one-third of the world's 335,000 plants that have 20 employees or more. So Wonderware has enjoyed a great amount of success and also brought a lot of firsts to the market, and we believe we're doing that again with this new InTouch OMI technology and a lot of the capabilities that are part of System Platform 2017. So setting the background a little bit further is that System Platform has been in the industry or been offered in the marketplace for several years now, and it's been around for quite some time. And some of the key things that customers have given us feedback on in terms of advantages that System Platform has brought to them has come to us through a study that we go through of a technology called Tech Validate. And you'll see throughout here, you'll see things like improved system standardization. For those of you that don't have a key background with System Platform, is that we focus on standards as the key mechanism for how you assemble application. First, you identify your standard, and then by deploying these things to standards, you have a lot of consistency and allows you to ensure that your practices, your policies, your technologies, and your execution methodologies are happening in a consistent manner, which themselves, those consistencies drive a lot of the other improvements. When you talk about improved operator awareness and agility, a lot of that comes by ensuring that standardization, ensuring best practices throughout your organization. Those increased efficiencies and productivities probably has a bit more to do around with the fact that this is a distributed application with a broad access to all of your system. And so we have the ability to connect the data, collect that data, normalize that data information, store that data for further analysis, visualize that information throughout your organization, and allow people to act and perform activities and control activities or a variety of activities on that information. And so the System Platform has enjoyed a great amount of success already in the marketplace. And some of the more feedback that we have seen here around what challenges our customers have overcome while utilizing that is that System Platform, when you talk about managing the scope and complexity of processes, System Platform allows you to scale from something that's quite small to systems that are hundreds of machines working in concert together to provide a uniform execution method and overall supervisory method for that system. Managing operator information overload is a big aspect of this, is that while you could put millions of points of data in the System Platform, humans can only manage so much information at a point in time, and that's been key to what we've been trying to do, is to ensure that we provide that situational awareness to our customers. Also by gaining greater business visibility, providing them the opportunity to reduce energy consumption and waste, and improve their staffing and training. The staffing and training is probably more an effect of those consistencies, so that once you're able to train customers on your standards and they understand what those colors may mean and those effective use of colors from every portion of your process, and then you can move those resources between your processes and your organization effectively. Thus far, what I've been referring to and these points that come out of the Tech Validate studies are all those points and measures that have been traditionally part of System Platform up to and including the 2014 R2 version, which was the version in the market prior to 2017. The rest of the presentation here is going to be focusing in on what were some of the key things that drove us to make some of the changes that we did for the 2017 release, why we believe it's important for people to leverage this capability. We're going to introduce you at a high level to some of the capabilities, some of the product overviews and features, as well as giving you a road to operational excellence and then recapping the presentation. We'll cover that over here in the next 40 minutes or so. So the statement on this slide kind of stands alone, but we talk about operational efficiency being a currency. We recognize that for many of our customers, the life cycle of their applications can be long, can be measured in sometimes decades. 15 years is on average what we hear is about the life cycle or the life expectancy of an industrial application or supervisory control application that people put in place. And we recognize that in those 15 years, you need the ability to be very agile, to change to the either changing needs of the organization or to be able to leverage the capabilities that shifts in technology bring to market. And that was a lot of the focus of what we had tried to do with System Platform 2017, was to allow you to address those things. So we talk about here about some of the well-understood advantages of having industrial applications in your process, that they're able to generate rich business insights within the context of operational data, providing you that real-time insight into what's happening in your application, being able to deploy timely and actionable information throughout the value chain, so not only down at the operations, but bringing the information off the plant floor and distributing it throughout your organization. Storing and processing vast amounts of process data is a key part of the platform. Uniting geographically dispersed plants or sites as well as assets, bringing those things in together so that you're not only looking at islands of localized automation, but to provide you a holistic view of your applications. Being able to simulate, test, change management without risk of downtime is a key aspect of the things that we've been delivering with System Platform, as well as being able to universally configure control designs without limit, especially in limit and scope inside of those applications. But those things do not come without some challenges. And so we'll talk a bit about some of those challenges here and some of the downs here. We start talking about connecting the assets with control systems and business systems. It does require typically specialized personnel resources and precious development time. Application development and deployment and re-engineering raises project costs across the life cycle of industrial applications. Application maintenance and upgrades and expansions often mean system downtime. Plants operating with multiple device vendors, equipment manufacturers, and third-party app developers often are fraught with inconsistency and lack of standards about not only their visualization, but in their overall operations and consistency. Developing app content for multiple device screens requires tons of re-engineering, or ultimately isn't done at all, which has severely diminished the ability for people to leverage mobility throughout their applications and throughout their systems. Operational business and Internet of Things enabled applications require specialized scripting and customization that often reduces the amount of people that are able to participate inside of those systems, as well as procuring highly specialized specialized application engineering could send costs skyrocketing. And these are the areas that we focused in 2017 and addressing head-on inside of the key capabilities that we work to deliver inside of System Platform 2017. When we look at the potential for industrial applications, we find that it's enormous. Enormous for the potential for improving our customers' operations, the efficiencies, qualities, and so many aspects of the overall business that they're operating inside of the system. And we want to ensure that the platform is up to task for being able to address those things. So when we talk about some of the challenges we recognized inside of the industry, some of the business imperatives our customers have communicated back to us, as well as some of the technology trends that we have seen and how we might be able to leverage them towards better empowering our customers. So let's take off initially on those industry challenges. So we find that some of the industry challenges here are talking about rising costs or evolving managing automation. As these systems continue to growing in scope, growing in the diversity and the number of systems, it is starting to raise also the costs. Aging assets and legacy unconnected systems, we're finding that systems are not really holistically being viewed and that there are a lot of disconnected pieces and parts, and that really lessens the ability for people to be able to holistically manage those systems. Finding more and more tightened regulations, and so people have restrictions around the things that they're able to do, how they are being dictated, how they must be able to manage that information and manage that data. And often complying with those regulations can reduce that amount of time that they have for other activities inside of their organizations. We're looking to minimize that. Cybersecurity is an ever-growing challenge that we have inside of this industry, and one that we must meet head-on. We're finding also that skills shortage due to either aging workforces and people's skills and leaving organizations, or generational shifts where people are coming in with a different set of skill sets and a different set of knowledge, and that aren't one-for-one replacing many of those capabilities that are sitting inside of their organizations today. Some of the things that have been reported back to us with regard to the business imperatives that we're here is that more and more of our customers are being judged on their operational efficiency and in their ability to improve and maximize their operational efficiency, as well as enterprise-wide visibility for enhanced decision support. It's no longer just about ensuring that they're operating the process, but that key business information that's being gleaned from this real-time data is going to be utilized to make a variety of decisions, not necessarily simply on the plant floor, but throughout the entire organization. And the agility required in meeting changing requirements. And those systems, while they may be installed and lasting for 15 years, the requirements that they have both within their business and in satisfying the customers that those businesses deliver to continually are changing, and we need to be agile in our ability to meet those changes and meet those requirements. As well as operator productivity, which stands to be something that is constantly being asked to be improved. We're constantly being asked throughout the entire industry to do more with less, and how are we going to be able to meet those challenges? Technology often brings us opportunities, and there's many technology trends that are happening right now, some of those being cloud. And what does cloud offer us in the ability of distributing that information, collecting it, analyzing it, doing more with the information we have in those systems? The Internet of Things, and what does that offer us in connecting more and more types of systems together to interconnect those systems, bring more of those applications into the umbrella of what is visible? Mobility, the capabilities of putting those informations into the hands of every one of the people in the organization that has desire for that information, regardless of the devices they're connecting from. If they're on the plant floor and they're acting through workstations, or if they're in central control rooms and they're actually through larger systems, if they're in boardrooms and are connecting through conferencing equipment, or if they need to be on the move with tablets and phones. Those are all things that we need to make sure are possible, as well as big data and analytics. Systems today are generating millions and millions of points of data every day. And how do we take that information and leverage it to do smarter things, whether it be predictive analytics, maintenance, better scheduling of production, efficiency in running things, reducing energy consumption? Those are all the types of outcomes that we have to look towards as we look at these types of technology trends. So we look at the combination of the industry challenges that we're hearing, the business imperatives that our customers are operating under, as well as those capabilities that the technologies are offering us in these days. And we wanted to bring that to bear with the 2017 version of System Platform, and that is something that we focused on. And when we started to think about ourselves, about imagine if we could start seamlessly and scale from small to large with plug-in modules that offer 100% reusability of engineering investment. So that allows customers to start as small as their business requires, but allows them to reach the heights of whatever maturity, whatever capability their organization may look to do over years. Increasing the production of their systems by up to 10% by eliminating downtime due to simply maintenance and system upgrades, being allowed to stay in production longer, while you're still able to adjust to changes in requirements. Identifying and resolving abnormal situations up to 5 times faster before system availability is impacted. And how do we make it sure that the information being presented to the operators is that is of utmost importance and allows them to make the proper decisions to ensure that they're avoiding abnormal situations in their processes? How do we make it easier for our operators to achieve effectiveness as much as 40% more by reducing the time it takes to complete the tasks inside of their systems, as well as reducing project engineering costs by significant amounts, as much as 40 to 60%, by simplifying the HMI application and configuration, as well as development. These were all the key outcomes that we directed our systems toward as we looked and we imagined around what we would deliver with 2017 of our version. So we talk about the sheer operational efficiency of a single common platform beneath it all. That is where we position System Platform 2017. It is a distributed platform that can reach to all extents of your applications, no matter how small or how large, to offer you one holistic mechanism for having a real-time view and real-time control of your applications. So as we start looking at 2017 and some of the capabilities, when we talk about one platform with many experiences, we recognize that the people inside of our platforms are not always the same. Traditionally, throughout the 30 years of the legacy of Wonderware, we have our primary space has been right there on the plant floor, right there next to the physical assets or inside of control rooms. But we recognize that over the next several years and even into the present right now, that more and more that those applications are going to be needing to have those access to information regardless of where people reside. And so with this, we're going to be introducing our new Operations Management Interface, or OMI. This is the world's first OMI in the industry, and it is focused on many things, one of those being eliminating the need for a lot of scripting and or animation links or other deep technical requirements to be able to build those applications. We wanted to focus on applications that are data-driven. Data-driven applications that will assemble themselves and provide us to have more custom-delivered applications toward those end users. So if you have an application delivered towards a specific role, it can consume the content for that role without having to be engineered. Therefore, we can create many custom experiences for many different custom target users without having to overcome the burden of a great amount of engineering cost. Having those applications ready in minutes with out-of-the-box libraries of contents that work with any target hardware platform, whether your hardware be PLCs or programmable logic controllers, distributed control systems, remote telemetry units, or a variety of the different type of transmitters that are evolving and being introduced in the Internet of Things of today and the industrial Internet of Things, that you'll be able to cover all of those needs with one platform. We have also looked to expand beyond those typical spaces into plug-and-play apps for a single UI for operations. We talk about those plug-and-play apps. They're expanding beyond the traditional accessing registers inside of PLCs and really into integrating more into these data systems that are inside of your organizations. Those data systems where there's a lot more islanded information that people have not traditionally brought into those control systems. And we've imagined how we can bring that into these systems in a very clean manner, allowing faster identification and response for abnormal situations. That is key driven based upon standards. In order to achieve best practices, there are well-known best standards. Where most applications today require you to have become experts in those standards, we've looked into ways of how we build those standards into the systems to allow you to achieve those world-class capabilities without yourself having to go through the years and years of training and science that needed to be done to achieve them, but you were able to reap the benefits of the capabilities simply by leveraging our platform. Working on 100% reusability of the initial engineering investment so that when you build things that you're able to use them over and over for a number of target platforms, as well as being able to deploy incrementally without system downtime. This is a very fundamental part as we recognize that our customer applications are extremely fluid, but constantly evolving, constantly changing, and they need the freedom to be able to update, manipulate, change those applications without having to bring those systems down in order to change those applications. So when we start introducing System Platform 2017, and we look on these the key statements of easy to build, easy to use, and easy to own, we try to put a little bit meat behind what that means. So we talk about the only purpose-built industrial platform for supervisory human-machine interface, supervisory control, as well as the industrial Internet of Things. The capability and the focus of what we have with System Platform 2017 and being a distributed standards-based platform is unique in the industry. Now, with the introduction of InTouch OMI content, and the InTouch OMI container is the world's first and only operations management interface, which effectively collapses the time it takes to build these very tailored applications, tailored to devices and tailored to users, without having to do constant reengineering. The responsive user interface and visualization equips designers to build once and deploy uniform content to any device or screen. This is one of the key components of what the OMI technology delivers, is the ability to build once and leverage to provide a custom experience in many different types of target devices. Multi-touch and gesture interactions are going to be things that are part of those alternate devices. We recognize that while some devices are going to be traditional mouse and keyboard first, more and more of the devices that we're bringing into our ecosystem are either touch first, sometimes touch second in the case of tablets, or some of them are touch only when it comes in the case of phones. So we recognize that when we build and we design content, we need to do it in a manner such that it will easily move between mouse and keyboard or mouse and touch only type devices without requiring re-engineering on the behalf of the people that are trying to deliver those applications. Applying graphic standards across the process visualization content is really focused around consistency and best-in-class operations. There's consistency so that as I move between equipment and sites that I do not have to relearn things. We find out that it's pretty consistent where we find in the marketplace that people have multiple systems, that those systems are often not delivered in a consistent manner. And so that once you've learned the standards that may have been applied in one application, if they've been consistent even throughout that application, that the standards in terms of colors, fonts, layouts, navigation techniques, they're often very different from system to system. And these can be, by building on standards, driving them from standards and ensuring the consistency in the use of those standards throughout the entire application and throughout the entire organization is a key component of what we've been focusing on in the System Platform 2017. We recognize that achieving world-class capabilities means that you can't start from ground zero. So when we talk about the most comprehensive library of out-of-the-box standards, including this new technology we refer to as object wizards, this allows you to start at a much more componentized manner. So you're not starting at the base root level of an individual variable or an individual graphic element, but you're starting at much more larger levels of, you can start with focused on assets and what an entire asset will do and how that asset lives inside of that ecosystem, and bring those things together. And ultimately, what we refer to as our OMI applications, our Operations Management Interface applications, are an extensible plug-and-play contextualized applications. And by contextualize, it is the key that will drive movement between applications. So as you move from one application to the next, you don't have to kind of reorient yourselves. But if, say, for example, if one application was going to facilitate access to product documentation, if I was looking at alarms and looking to move to that application, I should access the product documentation in context of the alarm I was looking at. That is what we mean by contextualize. Moving between applications with the ability of maintaining the context of what you're doing and therefore collapsing the time it takes for you to find information and the time it takes for you to ultimately make a decision and react to the circumstances of what's happening in your system in real time. So when we talk about now being the time for, not the time for inaction, but now the time for action, with System Platform 2017, we fundamentally have changed many of those expectations that people have had for how they maintain and how they build systems. We're really collapsing the time it takes to build. We talk about easy to build. By building once on any device and starting with pre-built standards, we truly have collapsed the amount of time it takes for someone to build not just an adequate system, but a world-class system that works on best practices inside of the industry. When we focus on easy to use, reducing the technical knowledge barrier for people to be able to work within these systems, as well as offering them a modern user interface and user experience everywhere inside of their system. Not because you've become experts in those capabilities yourselves, but because we have worked to take this expertise, understand what are those best practices in the industry, and to build them inside of the system so that by working with our systems, you will automatically have those general capabilities. And we look at easy to own, simplifying the maintainability of the systems, making them extremely easy for you to maintain while minimizing any downtime that may be experienced from that maintenance as you maintain and making those systems current. So when we talk about System Platform 2017 and what it will mean for you and what you can expect from a System Platform 2017 system, when we think of these things, we often think of the integration or the interconnection between process, technology, and people. And these things move together. And so when you talk about the processes inside your organization and the things that you do, and there's different maturity levels of this process, but System Platform 2017 allows you to move through those maturity levels, as well as maturity of technology. Not everyone will start at the end, and you will work through those maturity levels over time. You don't have to try and tackle everything at once, as well as the people and the maturity of the culture as you move from people who are maybe just showing up for work, or they're becoming more involved in the processes to where they become more acting like owners themselves. And then as we start doing that, we provide the capability for accessing the information outside of the process control network. So as you start to shift your organization from labor resources to information scientists and from people that will be taking that information to make key decisions inside of your processes. We start to consolidate information from multiple data sources into a single user interface, what we refer to as our operations management interface. To truly understand your business with the right information at the right time will be a key focus as we start to move from reactive operations, where you're moving from chasing interlocks and chasing alarms, but really truly being able to affect the business outcomes of your organizations in real time, exposing those hidden opportunities for performance improvements and the abilities for you to focus more on those key outcomes of your business and less around how do I keep my process moving. Enhanced decision-making with access to personalized, relevant information at any location. Those are key aspects of where we see the industry moving and what we're delivering with the operations management interface. And ultimately, empowering people to become active participants in real-time collaborative workflows. Again, focusing on being proactive inside of your business and achieving the business outcomes and not just focusing on keeping your production up. When we talk about the different roles and who we expect to be gaining the most from what we've done with System Platform 2017, we're kind of centering in here on kind of three focused roles. First, we're focusing on the engineering and the people who are responsible for managing, building, and maintaining those systems. By our focus on standards, our focus on providing so much of the capability out of the box, we expect that those engineers will be able to come up to speed very quickly with these systems, be able to easily deploy that content with standards enforced based upon the best practices they see in the organization, with the ability to scale greatly across those systems and ultimately deploy those things into any of the locations in their organizations. And so for those engineers who need to manage and design those systems, we see a huge increase for them to break free of their tactical nature of what's likely to be in their processes today, where they're only able to focus on keeping those systems running or bringing those systems online, and really allowing them to focus on how they can improve. And focusing here now, we're changing our focus here to the operators and the operations. We talk about plant managers, operations managers, the SCADA managers, and the central control room operators. We're really going to focusing them on moving into proactive operations as opposed to reactive operations. When we talk about visualize, optimize, and act, we're going to be shifting the things that people do from just waiting for an alarm to trigger an activity or waiting for an interlock to force you to go looking deeper, to allow people to really focus their time and efforts on looking on how they can find opportunities for efficiencies and improvements. Ultimately, to do that, we need to achieve situational awareness in those systems. And we talk about contextualized information, allows you to jump off from those situations so that once I understand that, hey, there is something that's happening inside of the system that requires my attention, what do I do next? Always focusing on that what's next capability and driving those operators directly to what's next. quickly and accurately addressing those abnormal situations before they impact operations. If at all possible, we'd like to identify them before they occur at all, but if should they occur, then we want to be able to take care of them and address those issues before they start having impact. And so for those operators, it will really allow them to stay focused on those activities that improve the overall business. And in the end, when we look at this last focus here with regards to the IT organizations and the administrators, we look at IT managers, system administrators, functional departments, maintenance, accounting departments, corporate business users. We know that security and providing the information in a secure, user IT-friendly way is extremely important. Enabling seamless integration on business processes, facilitating access to that data, as well as providing electronic documentation of system history and tracking and auditing for ensuring that they're able to meet and demonstrate they're able to meet regulatory compliance requirements. Those are key aspects of what we expect for those IT people. What System Platform 2017 will mean to your operations? We'll start with the key point of standardization. By standardization, we're providing a complete automation library. When we say that this will offer about 50% of a typical application project, the complete automation library is much broader in focus than it would be a collection of data points or just some process visualization. It goes into many aspects of the quality and status of the data that's being shown, the alarm enunciation and how those are handled and how that's being shown, how you communicate key information about whether things are in production, out of production, whether they're in abnormal states, what the abnormal states are, how do we uniquely identify the information and ensure that it all bubbles up to the operator in a very quickly organized manner so that he or she can manage that huge quantities of information that are inside those applications. Then how do we then allow that to be built once and 100% reusable graphic content across any device? We also have this notion of what we refer to object wizards, which seamlessly enforce our standards across any hardware. So regardless of the hardware, whether it's a uniform hardware system that you're putting this on top of, or if it's a greatly diverse amount of hardware pieces from different vendors, we're able to manage these expectations and these capabilities by standardizing across these different applications and the different standards that we deliver in the system. Empowerment is another big aspect, empowering operators with that situational awareness and in context-driven apps, eliminating as much as possible operator error and fatigue and reducing those nuisance alarms inside of those applications, allowing them to stay focused on those activities that are related directly towards their outcomes for their business and not about how they tackle the technology. Empowering remote and mobile users with responsive user interface that works across multi-factor devices and takes into account the nature of those devices, whether they be based on touch and gesture or whether they be requiring a mouse and keyboard, but not making that something that people have to engineer into every solution. Empowering all business users with plant floor production metrics using dashboards and charts inside of their systems. So expanding our reach of our information off of the plant floor and into the overall organization. When we talk about the agility and what System Platform 2017 means to you there, we talk about the seamless change management without impacting production due to unplanned system downtime, with stage redeployments, and ultimately keeping your systems up while on the fly and having this content update without any downtime inside of your system. Commissioning new and replacement devices using graphical task-oriented workflows and targeted plant floor technicians. So ultimately, the people that we expect to be able to maintain these systems are going to require less and less knowledge of the deep technical capabilities, and we've abstracted those into a lot of what we've called those object wizards, as well as allowing modular plug-in apps to enable organizations to grow at the speed of their business. So as more and more applications enter your organization around asset management or document management or quality or planning or scheduling or the variety of software systems that you're having in your application, how do we tightly integrate them? Tightly integrate them into a single solution so that we don't have operators that need to now dance between multiple machines with multiple logins, and they can uniformly access this information in context of what's happening in their process in real time. The standardization will help us experience as much as 60% reduction in engineering time due to the elimination of tasks that traditional systems require. Empowering those users with a single window in plant operations that will enable integrated workflows and transform from reactive to proactive execution inside of their organization. And the agility will allow increased operational efficiency with seamless change management without impacting production. Every new feature inside of System Platform 2017 was conceived and delivered with the intent of amplifying operational efficiency. And so we start talking about how these market-leading new capabilities can help you overcome obstacles. How are we going to achieve that? One of the key things we're doing is building on decades of innovation that have already been taking place inside of Wonderware. We have hundreds of thousands of customers who already have System Platform as well as InTouch technologies deployed throughout their organizations. And everything that we've done in System Platform 2017 dovetails cleanly in the things that we've done in previous releases. So for our customers who have deployed those technologies and are looking for what 2017 will bring to them, you'll be able to use everything that you've already previously defined, whether those are the object structures you defined, whether it's the standards, the process visualization content you defined. All those things will move forward cleanly. And we've built on top of that investment that you've made over years, or even if you're a new user, we've built on top of the capability we've been delivering into the marketplace. So this is not something that just started with 2017, but it is something that's been in place for quite a long time, and there's many, many thousands of users that have been successfully deploying these technologies. But with 2017, we believe we've taken several significant steps forward, not the least of which being the new InTouch Operations Management Interface, which is our next generation responsive visualization container. InTouch has been around the industry for 30 years, the InTouch HMI offering. And with InTouch OMI, we started from the ground up. We redesigned and rewrote our entire process visualization technology to enable us to attack the industry and to empower the capabilities in the industry for the next 30 years. The InTouch HMI technology facilitated this for the previous 30 years. This sets us up for where the next 30 years of process visualization innovation will be going. So when we talk about here in this first bullet point that says modern user experiences no longer requiring a PhD in UI scripting, the key focus here is that systems will be data-driven. We recognize that as the systems grow in size and grow in scale and grow in scope of the applications that they're trying to adapt to, that the mechanisms that were traditionally in place of kind of hand-generating applications and dragging and dropping content onto screens as the primary mechanism of how we build applications, that it doesn't scale. It doesn't work as we go into the future. And so we talk about how do we integrate new and existing operational and informational systems into a single unified visual client. We needed a different approach. How do we deliver modern user interfaces on every device without requiring us to rebuild those applications over and over again? How do we ensure that no screen size or platform will suffer with the only responsive operations management interface on the industry? You can design applications once and deploy them anywhere on any device and screen with the first investment only. And also, how do we deliver a common platforms for industrial applications that provide business insights, integrated analytics, and unified key performance indicators in context with operational data? Those were the main key drivers of what we thought about when we conceived the operations management interface. So when we talk about the world's first responsive HMI without scripting, what are we talking about? So we're going beyond HMI here. We're going beyond just human-machine interface. When we talk about operations management and how that changes from just human-machine, we believe that the scope is going to be wider. The scope and the content is going to be more than just, I'm going to have one process graphic and I'm going to move between the process graphic. But we expect that at the same time I'll be looking between real-time process graphics and a variety of host of other applications. And so as you look at the screen here, those hosts of applications have kind of been color-coded into these panes. And these panes, you can see that have reoriented and reorganized in themselves based upon the real estate that's accessible, based upon the different platforms and devices that are accessible to me. So that if I'm at a tablet, whether I'm holding that tablet portrait or landscape, I may want to reorient that content. or if I'm in a desktop, or if I'm in a mobile UI, how would I reorient that content? Or what content would I deliver? What makes sense? And these we're showing just a few examples here, but ultimately we looked outside of our own industry into the key capabilities of how is this done typically in web design? How is this done in other areas? And is there things that we could lean there and take from that and then industrialize and bring these to industrial markets to make these things more prevalent inside of our industry? So one of the key focuses we want here is we want to make sure that as we move between these experiences, we did not want to require the redesign of content or the requirement to bring in more engineering expertise to bring these. We wanted to focus on optimizing the experience and having the technology facilitate moving between the different types of devices in natural ways for those target devices. So we talk about the next paradigm in process visualization. The key focus there is in graphic standardization that will improve your agility, responsiveness, and the change management efforts, and minimize change management efforts. So ultimately here, you focus on delivering the content. We will focus on the standards and deliver for you the key capabilities out of the box from a technology perspective, but we want to keep the users focused on those applications and those content specific to their applications, and we will facilitate moving that content to different platforms. One of the key things that we've done to be able to deliver this is to break up the kind of user experience into kind of a couple of different roles. One here we're calling designer and one we're calling developer. So in this particular case, the developer is the person who's going to be really focusing down on the application, developing the application, whereas the designer is the person who's going to be developing the standards. The designer is the person that's going to be the one that's going to focus in on ensuring that I have my corporate-wide standards. The designer role in many cases here may be facilitated by whether it's going to be the Wonderware organization and our ecosystem partners. It may be corporate engineering who will be developing those types of applications or the device of content, that they will facilitate how those things are intended to be across the organization. And then others will be one of more of the application assemblers, and we're calling developers here. They're the ones that piece these things together. They're the ones that just take them to rapidly build those applications. They're not the ones that have to consider of how does this particular faceplate move between a phone and a control room screen. Those are the things that the standards developers have already taken into account. They've already taken into account the proper form factors, the proper aspect ratios, the font sizes, the colors that should be used, the data elements that should be used inside of these things. Those have already been decided upon. And so when it comes to building and assembling their application, they're assembling out of macro pieces. I need this type of content, I need these types of devices. These are the assets inside of my system to rapidly reduce the amount of time that it takes to build and manage those systems. When we talk about plug-and-play apps and that they will bridge the divide between IT and OT, this is an area where we believe we're making the most significant advance in moving forward with what we refer to as operations management interface. We recognize that on average, our customers identify around 15 to 20 software applications that are involved in their overall operation. But today those software applications are largely islanded, and they're in different parts of the organization. And we focused on how we can host and contextually access those. We're certainly going to start internally with many of our own. So our own tools like Alarm Advisor, Recipe Plus, Workflow, Operations, MES components, Insights, camera applications we're going to be extending, navigation applications, building in native mapping applications, native web interfaces so that we can access third-party content, as well as providing toolkits so that third-party applications can be built wherever an access to an API may be available. We're focusing here on being as horizontal and as best of breed as we can because we recognize our customer systems are not uniform. There's no one answer that solves all problems. So we wanted to be able to facilitate as wide an access to this, but again, starting with our own content and then opening that up to third parties as well to be able to participate in this ecosystem. The most comprehensive out-of-the-box content here will be one of the key things that it will drive to us the extensions of being able to collapse the amount of time it takes to build a system. So we talk about object wizards. Object wizards are a technology that are a means to an end. Those object wizards will allow organizations and those standards developers I was describing earlier to identify how an asset will work, so that you understand how assets at macro levels. It could be small as a transmitter or it could be big as a skid of equipment. But you identify on a repeatable basis what's repeatable in your organization. And then once you have that repeatable design there, assembling those applications becomes extremely clean. And so those object libraries can cover as much as already 80% of the needs of this automation, delivering the platform-aware visualization screens in days or even minutes, depending on the size of the application, instead of months or years, depending on how it takes for you to build today. Aligning your visualization standards to provide both IT and operator imperatives. So we've really thought about this. When we talk about operations management interface, we really backed up and thought more than just how do I interact with the machinery, but how am I interacting with the overall operation? How do I reduce the development and maintenance time? How do I reduce the engineering efforts to be able to accomplish these things? While at the same time, increasing the scalability and the repeatability with flexible templates that adapt to the native device settings. And then quickly adapt content to the changing customer inputs that you have inside of your organizations. So we talk about these applications, and I referenced it earlier, applications that build themselves dynamically and can build themselves automatically. How can these things work? Well, one of the things that we've done here is we've integrated what we call auto build into our operations integration servers, or sometimes shortened our OI servers. These auto build operations can actually go directly and inspect the PLCs or the devices that you may have in your organization and extract the information like simple structures, contained structures, user-defined structures, strings, add-on instructions, and with no configuration required, can automatically replicate that asset model, that data-driven model that builds the rest of the navigation content that I've referenced. We can automatically generate those things just by being able to pull them out of other structures that exist inside of PLCs or other systems inside of your environment. Focusing also on accessing and visualizing your operations anywhere. So we talk a couple about capabilities here. Historical playback. We recognize that as information is stored, we wanted to be able to play that information back through a variety of different types of process visualizations and make it easy without any cost. And anyone who has built on previous versions of System Platform or InTouch will be able to take those process graphics and automatically play back historical data through this process graphing, giving you a virtual industrial DVR in your plant to be able to combine that real-time and historical data, giving you greater insights and enabling proactive operations and improved decision-making. Online Insight is the name of our cloud-hosted systems that connect directly inside of our platform to allow you to pinpoint reasons for downtime and allows you to be for technical and casual users to access information and search through information to reduce time and cost of operator training, as well as accessing information from the cloud. And cloud extensions are being natively built inside of System Platform 2017, as well as facilitating remote access to your control and your operations management interface to get remote and mobile access to those InTouch applications anytime, anywhere, through any device. Integrating Smart Glance as part of our information model for real-time historical and event dashboards and KPI analysis from virtually any mobile device. So we're also working focusing on automatic anomaly detection as well as Alarm Advisor. So trying to work to help you. So on the left-hand side, when we talk about news feeds. News feeds is a capability that's built into the new Insight client. And the Insight client will be able to identify when anomalies occur that are outside of normal operations in your data and provide you information proactively around anomalies that you wouldn't have to pre-configure. It will just identify that, hey, look, this is operating differently than usual, and give you that information. Alarm Advisor performs a bit of a different role, where in those areas where you have pre-configured anomalies and that you want to be testing for, are you finding too many? Is it giving you too many chattering alarms or fleeting alarms? And is the information is it overloading your operations? And how can you ultimately optimize your alarms information to ensure that the information is actionable and valuable to the people in your operation? all being part of System Platform 2017. So as we work on up toward our conclusion of this session here and talk about why System Platform 2017, we'll try to distill it down to a few key points. One, it is a hardware-agnostic, real-time control and information management platform that can be easily leveraged across your entire organization to give you real-time insights into whatever real-time processes are happening in your system. Two, it gives you the widest ability to integrate all the types of hardware being introduced by not only the traditional mechanisms, but also the industrial Internet of Things. At our root, we've integrated core capabilities such as MQTT and web services inside of our system platform to make it extensible into virtually any type of device or system that is inside of your organization. Number three, easily integrate with business applications and cloud analytics through common information models and modular extensibility. We recognize the information must move through your organization. It cannot get trapped at the far edges of your organization. We need to reach out to those far edges, bring it out and distill that information throughout your organizations and make it easily able to consume. And the fourth point here is that it becomes the only operations management interface designed to unify all your information technology and your operation technology into a simple, single, responsive user interface framework that will ultimately greatly collapse the time it takes for you to make key business decisions so that you can move from operating your process in real time to operating your business in real time. The overall ecosystem throughout Schneider Electric is already there and in place to be able to deliver, support, and maintain and sell the System Platform 2017. You can see here it's showing you the diverse set of system integrator partners, distributor partners, training staff that we have around the world. And so System Platform 2017 went live for purchase last week. And so we are now it is not talking about when, it is now available. System Platform 2017 is now available for purchase as of last week. And we are fully supported within our entire ecosystem to take this to market. I think with that, we have reached the conclusion of this, and hopefully you've learned a lot about System Platform 2017 with InTouch OMI, and hopefully sparked your interest in, again, if you were looking for more technical details on the specifics of how these are achieved, there was another webinar that was presented, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and you can access and download that for some of the more technical specifics. With that, I think I'd like to bring Mary Ann Burns back to kind of guide me through the Q&A and what questions maybe remain that have not yet been answered. But Mary Ann, are you still online?
I'm here, John. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. And yes, we have had a number of people ask for a more technical presentation. As John just mentioned, we did that on a couple of weeks ago, June 7th. And that can be found on our website. If you go to wonderware.com under events, you'll see the June 7th webinar. You can still register for that and view the on-demand. So, and that really goes through the product, in a more technical, fashion. So if that's what you're interested in, that is available. Let's see. We've got a couple of, all these questions are unanswered, and they're for you, John. Oh, first question is, will this be a free upgrade for current customers? So, John, you want to take that?
For any customer who is currently on 2014 R2 of System Platform and has an active support contract, you will have upgrades as part of your support contract.
It would be nice to know how it's going to reduce scripting. So I think you did go through that, but if you want to summarize it.
So one of the key areas where it reduces scripting is in the area of navigation. Navigation is all being done through data-driven models. So instead of having to put scripts that say, okay, show graphic here, or show window at, or hide this, or embed those links in hundreds of different graphic elements throughout the application, all the navigation is being done from a data-driven model. You associate graphics within your model of your application, and that model is what drives navigation. And that navigation model may drive different behaviors on different devices. So the navigation model may drive a tree behavior on a larger workstation, but it may determine how you swipe through content on on a device which is, like more like a mobile phone where I need to swipe through content. And so, but everything is driven off a central model, and you manage that model, and it drives the navigation, as opposed to doing a very distributed animation and or scripting model.
Okay, so the next question along that line is, did you streamline the process for moving a standard InTouch application into the new OMI?
So the standard InTouch application will continue to be offered, and when you do get your upgraded licenses or purchase new licenses for System Platform 2017, the new supervisory client will enable both an InTouch and an InTouch OMI. That way, if someone is using InTouch and they've got a lot of very specific things they built into InTouch that don't move very cleanly, they can continue to use the InTouch HMI offer or as well as the InTouch OMI. However, even in previous releases, such as 2014 R2 release of InTouch, we made it easy for you to batch convert all InTouch windows to Orchestra graphics. The InTouch OMI client is all based on Orchestra graphics. So, and the data models that we pull from this are the same data models that are inside of InTouch, whether it be the graphic toolbox, or if you're using InTouch for System Platform, whether it be the object models. Those models persist inside of OMI, and everything moves forward very cleanly. The most activity you may need to do is you may need to go back and tag those models with different types. That's probably getting a little bit more, and if you don't understand what that means, you may check out the technical presentation that Rob Kalmbach led. But it is a very clean moving forward. But all the graphics that you've developed will move forward quite cleanly.
Next question. Does the hosting machine for the mobile UI or any other UI that is accessed from outside or a public network be hosted from a DMZ rather than an automation, DLC, or SCADA network?
So one of the key aspects that we're able to do within the System Platform technology is we're able to replicate to a Tier 2 historian. So a Tier 2 historian can sit outside of that process control network and onto your IT networks. And so in order to replicate from our OT networks or our control networks onto those IT networks, we only need a single outbound-only port that's configurable on your side. So it's very secure, and information traffic only goes out. We replicate up into there, and that historian will be then the information, it will be the source of information out onto your IT networks, and you can then proceed there and push. We can also push directly not only to your IT networks, we can also go directly to the cloud, and we can host those applications for you as well. So you have both the choice of hosting them on-premise into your IT networks or pushing them to the cloud and having us host those applications for you.
Okay, great. Is there an OMI demo available on Team site? I can take that one. There will be an OMI demo available, and that will be available within the next 2 weeks. All right. What support and troubleshooting tools are available on System Platform 2017?
So the troubleshooting tools available in System Platform 2017 are most of the typical ones here. So in terms of tools, I don't know that I'm answering the question very well because I don't know that there are new tools, and I don't know that we reference new troubleshooting tools in this application. You would still use the integrated development environment, and you would still use the object viewer to be able to access that. We have made some improvements in some of the process visualization tools, and I know that we're bringing to market some improvements there. But most of the traditional tools in terms of the IDE and object viewer will be the key focus tools you'll be using.
What is the new licensing going to be available? When?
The new licensing, I'm not sure if I referenced that here, but there is a new licensing infrastructure that will be rolled that allows a centralized server-based management of all the licenses for System Platform 2017. In System Platform 2017 began being commercially available last week, so it's available now.
Okay, great. Is multi-monitor support same as the previous versions?
The multi-monitor support within System Platform 2017 and specifically within the new InTouch Operations Management Interface is light years ahead of what we've been able to do previously. It literally will take you seconds to define a screen profile and to assign the layouts that you want to go into the specific screens. And so it is far and above improved over what we've had in previous releases.
Okay, let's see. If one would upgrade from 2014 R2, how much work would be involved to convert the UI over? I think you kind of touched on that.
Ultimately, there's no need to convert at all. If someone wants to upgrade the 2014 R2, and once you look at the technical reasons, there are many improvements in the areas of memory management and deployment and retentive attributes across the deploy. There's a whole host of value that may work, well, you may want to leverage without even touching the user interface aspect of it. So the bottom line is that you don't have to touch anything. You can leave systems running as is. If you want to leverage it, usually what we've found is it takes people less than a day to be able to move their existing applications over to an OMI application.
Okay. Are there any canned algorithms available in the cloud that system platform can use for machine diagnostics and efficiency of operations?
So those are the cloud-hosted versions of our historian have web service interactions inside of them. That ultimately opens you up to any of the analytics capabilities that are accessible on Azure as a whole. And so the bottom line is, they're canned in terms of what Microsoft makes available, but all of the data that we push up there is natively available to those applications.
Okay. Let's see. Migration from Viejo SciTech, is that possible?
That is something that we are working towards in the future, but Viejo SciTech, in this particular case, we don't have a direct migration path for Viejo SciTech as that particular offer continues to be improved independently. So the Viejo SciTech offer is we just had the 2016 release, and I know that they're working on another 2017 release. So that is independently being improved, and some of the capabilities and features that we've entered into System Platform 2017 will find their ways into Viejo SciTech over time. As of right now, we're not looking to migrate our customers away from Viejo SciTech, but we're looking to leverage the technology inside of that offer, which is probably a discussion left better to that product management team.
Okay, will a supervisory client enable multiple instances of view apps and InTouch view apps?
So specifically, if on a single machine I have a license for a single supervisor client, from an InTouch HMI perspective, due to limitations in InTouch, you can run one version of View. You will also be able to run as many instances of the OMI application as your hardware will allow. So if you want to run 10, 15, 20, 30 OMI applications, they do not have the same architectural limitation as InTouch has had and the window viewer component of InTouch has had. You can run multiple OMI applications simultaneously.
Okay. Is trending still done? I'm sorry, John.
I was just saying there's no restriction in the licensing. You don't need to buy additional licenses to run additional sessions on the same machine.
Is trending still done on preset pages, or can you click on an object on the screen and it will show the trend for that item? And if so, can you add an item, the trend?
Absolutely. So one of the key things here is one of the new apps I cited was an Insight app. Insight is the HTML5 client that's built into our historian, both on-premise and in the cloud. And with the new app that we have and the contextual linkage, I'll be able to select an asset, and whether I'm selecting an asset by clicking on a symbol in a screen or clicking on alarm. But once I've gained that context, I can then inside of Insight push that context automatically, so it'll show you any particular trends associated with that. And clearly, if you want to manually add a trend to the page, you can do that as well. So yes, that's very clean capability that the new Insight app will be able to deliver. And
follow up to that from the same person, can you open multiple windows at the same time?
Yes, I believe that was the same question that was asked previously with regards to the number of sessions you can run. You can open as many as you want at the same time.
Okay, let's see. All right, we'll take one more question. Can you elaborate a little on improvements to change management?
So specifically, some of the areas of change management that I can elaborate would be an example of how we deploy. So when we deploy applications, we've made changes in two key areas of deployment. One, now we're able to retain attribute values across a deployment, so that if I deploy something in the 2014 R2 version of the product, every time it deploys, which for those of you who may not be familiar with deploy, takes the information from the configuration database and sends it to a machine for it to execute. Anytime we do a deploy operation, previously we were always taking all the information from the configuration and setting it to the target machine. Where this may have been an issue is that if an operator previously had changed that information, it was still taking the information from the configuration and sending it down to the machine. Now we're able to take on a selected basis and leave certain information behind, so that if I take and redeploy that object, but the operator had, let's say, changed the set point from 10 to 20, leave the set point at 20 and only bring down other points. So we now have the capability of deploying that. And we've also changed the order of deployment. So whereas previously in 2014 R2, the first thing we did as part of deploying new object was to remove the existing object. Now the first thing we do is to place the new object. Now, so the system is basically left running, and ultimately when we can transfer over the old object to the new object in about one scan engine period. So that an average scan engine period is about half a second. So that it really, really eliminates all of the downtime associated with delivering configuration changes and updates.